Hello and welcome to the Outstanding Life podcast. I'm Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, and today we are talking with Josh Skeel. Josh is an artist extraordinaire right here from Detroit, Michigan. I love that name. And also Joshua Spears is in the house. What's up, buddy? I think this is like our 6th episode together.
Hey, Johnny, how you doing?
Hey, you just got back from Baltimore, huh?
Yes.
Man, you did a bunch of speeches out there. Didn't you like speak for like 5,000 kids or something like that?
Yeah, I had 8 talks in front of 5,000 kids over the course of the week. It was pretty amazing.
Man, that's awesome. So we're sitting here on the podcast with one of your college buddies.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
Well, actually, we grew up at rival high schools.
Really?
Yes.
We were across the street from each other on the other side of the tracks. So
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So which one were you on the good side of the tracks, and which one was on the bad side of the tracks?
That depends on your perspective now, right? Wherever you're looking from, that's
You want a street fight? That's where you're gonna find the answer to that question.
Well, I just want to stay out of this one because you are both two big dudes. So I'm guessing that you played football, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I first remember hearing about Josh. Anyways, you see him on film when everybody, the big kid from East Jordan,
The big kid.
He was bigger than everybody. God, he's 6'5" and 300 pounds, and it's everybody's like, oh man, look at him. Yeah. Who's gonna stop him?
So he stepped in and did.
I love that.
For the record, he was always better than me at sports.
Yeah.
Football, definitely. That's strong. Yeah.
That's good. So, so Josh, you're from Detroit.
No, I'm actually from Charlevoix, Michigan.
From
Northern Michigan, yeah. So
then what the heck are you doing down here in Detroit? I love that place up there, Charlevoix. Madonna has a place up there.
Yeah, no, she does actually. Yeah, right in Bay Harbor. I don't know if she has it anymore or not, but So grew up in Northern Michigan, and I came down here to pursue my art career. Really, I mean, I was invited down here as a part of Rustic Crow Spirits to come down and do some wall murals at the restaurant, the Rustic Crow Detroit. And that's kind of how I got started. I was just coming down for a couple months, and I was down here working. And eventually, the owner, Joe Schiebel, just said, "Hey, you're here. We've been doing stuff for us for a couple of years, freelance, and what do you think about staying?" And I couldn't have jumped any faster. I pretty much flew across the room and said, "Please let me be here." So
your artwork is amazing. I'm looking at 4 of your liquor bottles that you have designed. That is absolutely amazing. I mean, literally, they are amazing. So I have to ask, I see the Josh today, but the Josh from yesterday was not the Josh today. And what I'm saying is you weren't always this good. You had to start somewhere, like everybody does that is following a dream.
Absolutely.
At what age did you realize, hey, you know what? I actually like this whole drawing thing. Or was it something that you just got in trouble when you were in school and the teachers were like, hey, listen, you have homework and stop drawing on your sheets of paper?
Oh, I had both. Believe me. Yeah, I definitely was chastised a few times by the teachers because I would spend more time sketching than taking notes, and that went all the way through college. So yeah, I mean, I always loved to draw ever since I was a little kid. I was always fascinated with cartoons and comic books, and I always wanted to draw them. That was kind of my creative outlet to get rid of that. So
were you a smart kid too?
I was average. I was like a 3-point student or something like that. So
that's good.
I was okay. I didn't really apply myself very hard because, I mean, eventually I was like, I want to be an artist. Who cares if I am great in math? Which is pure laziness. But I did it.
Right. But it's your story and you're sticking to it.
That's right.
But at what age did you look in the mirror and say, you know what, I think I want to do this for a living. I want to try this.
I think it probably wasn't until after high school. In high school, I was in art classes and I liked doing art, but I just wasn't ready to jump into it yet for some reason and commit to it. I was just really into sports at that point. I wanted to play football, and so that was really a big focus of mine was working on that. And I knew that eventually I was going to go to college, and so I was really focused in high school on that aspect of my life and trying to make a go with that.
What did your family think of your drawing?
They've always been supportive. Some of them, they kind of raise their eyebrows and go, you're a little bit of a weirdo, right? So you get that out of everybody now and again, but everybody's always been cool about it. I've never, had too many people that have said anything negative about it. There's been a few points where I'd been working on it for a long time and people go, God, you've been doing this for how long and you haven't made it? Are you going to give up? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
So was it always, because I look at some of the stuff you do and they're like superheroes type drawings. Mm-hmm. Is that what you started out drawing?
Yes, absolutely. When I was a kid, I was, God, I can remember, I have sketchbooks back from when I was in kindergarten.
You still do?
Yeah, where I was drawing. My mom will show me pictures, you know, where I was drawing Superman, and I would we had horses and dogs at the farm, like kind of a farm type deal. And so I would put capes on everything. You know, everything had a cape, and they'd all be flying along. All the pets were flying along with me and my brother and whatever. So
is it because you wanted to be a superhero yourself, or is it just because maybe you were fighting with something inside you that's what motivated you, because you knew that you could be that person one day?
I think I definitely, you know, admired the superhero aspect for sure back then. I mean, what kid doesn't like the idea of Batman or Superman or Spider-Man, you know? And so when I started really getting into comics and looking through them, and I was amazed by the art. I loved the art and I loved the action, and I loved the movie. I remember the Superman movie, the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeves. That blew my mind back in the day, and so that really got me into it. But yeah, I mean, I think eventually, honestly, I think that played a lot into sports too, where I was, you know, was always interested in people who were strong and athletic and could do things that nobody else could do. And I think that football played into a lot to me, where that was kind of part of the dream, really, of, you know, college football and pro football and things of that nature.
I couldn't wait to ask you this question, and Joshua, you're going to appreciate this because this was not on my 4 sheets of questions to ask Josh, and that is, if you could be a superhero, what superhero would you be, and what superpower would you have?
Oh, geez. I mean, if I was going to pick my own superpower, I think I would pick something that was a little more off base. I mean, it'd be like, you know, I think it would be interesting to be able to have the power of, you know, like pure communication, where you could really make somebody understand, and you could also understand them, you know, because there's so much fighting with, you know, can I understand where this person's coming from? Can they understand where I'm coming from? And I think that would really be something cool to be able, you know, if I'm talking to a scientist who knows a million things more, I could understand what they're talking about, and I could learn what they're talking about. So I think the power of communication, and that's really a lot of the power of art to me, is, you know, that power of being able to communicate with people.
That is that is an awesome answer.
Thank you.
I have often asked some of the people that I get to interview, some of the NASCAR drivers and stuff, and usually it's you know, I wish I could be invisible for a day, you know, or something kind of funny and stuff like that. But Joshua, what kind of superhero would you be?
I have no idea. Is it?
Do you look at yourself?
Go to the
sometimes?
buffet and you never get full? Is that one? You never get full. I can just keep eating. No.
As soon as he said that, Josh, I thought to myself, you just remind me of the guy that eats like all the hot dogs like in like 3 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you'd be that guy with a cake.
We destroyed a few buffets back in the day.
Yeah, we sure did.
We were powerful.
I guess Superman's powers, you know, would be, definitely don't have an eloquent answer like Josh. I never thought about that, but you could really, world peace could happen if you had someone who could communicate effectively to everybody. So I don't have something like that. You know, it would be fun to be able to fly and stuff like that, but yeah.
Cool. Josh, I'm going to let you ask the next question.
So, you know, you talked about it briefly, you know, growing up in a small town, and sports were a big deal. And when I really got to know you was in the college years. And why don't you tell you played college football? Where did you play, and what was that like?
Well, after graduating from Charlevoix, we wanted to play at Central Michigan University, and I was a walk-on there, non-scholarship guy, and you know, I wasn't a preferred walk-on or anything. Just came in with the regular student body, kind of, you know, everybody says Rudy style.
Not to jump in here. So what was that like, going from being in, you know, Charlevoix and being the, you know, the best player on the team, and then going there as a walk-on in this whole new world? Yeah. What was that like?
It's you know, it was about what I expected. Luckily, because I had some people, you know, our other roommate Bruce, who I went to high school with, had been there, and so I talked to him about it a little bit. I had a little bit of an idea what was coming on the meat squad, you know, where you're nobody cares if you're there, kind of thing, and it's just you know, you're there for yourself, kind of, or you're there for the team, I should say, but you know, nobody's gonna cry if you leave that day because you aren't a star, you aren't important in any way, shape, or form. So I knew it was coming in that way, and which was lucky to have that insight. So yeah, and then from there it was just a matter of you know, building that respect and learning how to play the game that way. And you know, you have to change some minds at that point, because nobody recruited you. None of those guys really wanted you there.
What was that like when they sat you down and said, you know what, we're going to give you a scholarship? What was that moment like?
Obviously it felt really good. And then the best part wasn't so much that moment. I mean, I was happy in that moment, but it was better when I was able to call my dad and tell him that, hey, you worked, he had been supporting me to that point, and my family, and they'd been paying the bills, and it was like, man, it just feels real good to be able to give that back.
Yeah.
And
what position?
So I was a nose tackle. I was a defensive tackle. I was too fat and slow to play anywhere else, that's for sure. So I was too small. Everybody always thought I would be a better offensive lineman, but I was too small. I'm only 6'1", and I was undersized just for defensive line at Division I. So
I'm going to piggyback on that question. Did you pick somebody on the team that was a little bit older than you, that maybe you looked up to, that you asked for help? Because there's a lot of, they always say that if you don't ask, you won't receive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that just don't ask. Were you one of the guys that said, I'm going to do this on my own and I'll be part of the team? Or did you kind of like reach out to somebody and they kind of took you under their wing?
Yeah. I mean, I've always been more of a loner, quiet type when I'm in that type of situation. So there were a couple guys who were on the practice squad though, that kind of were like, hey, follow me if we're going to go here for this drill and that drill, which was helpful, just because I never would have asked. No, that's just not who I am. So I kind of made my way that way and met a few people there, and they kind of gave me a little bit of an idea about, do I have to go to meetings? When are the meetings? Because the coaches don't tell you anything. You have no idea. You're just thrown out there, give them some pads, and let's see if you can swim.
And then watching video and stuff like that.
Right.
Was there at any point, because football was such a big deal for you, did you ever give up your art?
No, there's never been a point where I stopped doing art. There's definitely been times where I didn't work on it as hard as I should have, which was, those areas. If I could go back and work harder on it when I was in college, it would have saved me a lot of spinning my wheels after college. But
was your art your safe place?
Yeah, it's always been kind of my safe place. What I mean? Something that I feel comfortable doing. It's something that I feel good about doing and I'm proud of. And so, I mean, I think that's part of the draw to it, to make it part of my professional life, is how good I feel about it. So,
what kind of artist are you? Like, do you draw with a pencil? Do you paint? What is it for the listeners? What kind of art, and what did you start doing, and what are you into now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I grew up just using pencils. That was where I started out, and again, drawing comic book characters and fanciful things like that. Starting out with the bottles, I got into pen and ink. I've done pen and ink. From there was a natural progression for the line work that I like to do. I like really detailed drawings, but I do a little bit of everything. Some of our bottles have my artwork as oil paintings. I've done acrylic paintings on the wall murals downtown. I've done sculptures. So
You've done some with chalk even. I've seen
work,
some of his chalk art. It looks like a real person laying there. That girl that I saw, I was like, wow, she's like laying there.
Right.
But it was chalk. I had to look. I thought it was a photo.
Yeah. That was a fun project too.
Do you remember your first time getting paid to do a piece of art?
Oh, geez. It was probably in high school where I had brought something home or something, and some family member had purchased something from me. I don't specifically remember the first time, no. But there was, it's nice when they, the family members throw you a couple bones here. I'm like, oh, that's cool, I'll take it. So the pity buys, the mercy buys, I guess you'll say. So,
did you ever have one of the art shows? Like, did you ever have anything like that? Did you ever put your art up for show, or? I don't know what do they call those? Like, artists have like
a showcase, or
a showcase,
right,
or
so I've never done it like in an art museum or art gallery type setting.
Right.
No, in school there was always they would always have the art shows in the summer times or whatever, in the spring times, and so I would have my own little setup there for that type of thing. But no, I've never really had it other than stuff coming out for the bar professionally.
Listen to this. You give inspiration through your hands, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you inspire people, but now his artwork inspires people in a different way, not only by looking at the bottle, it's what's in the bottle.
Right. Well, I can't take credit for that part. That's somebody else's artwork, but yeah.
But it's a twofold here. What kind of liquor are in the bottles?
Well, we have several products I think we have 6 or 7 products that are out now. But we have our Gray Stash.
Where's that at again? Where do you?
This is for Rustic Crow Spirits. We have a distillery on a Telegraph Road in Dearborn Heights. And so we've been in business for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. But we have 2 gins. We have the Gray Stash gin, and then we have our regular Gin Stash gin. The Gray Stash is flavored with Earl Grey tea. And then we have our cinnamon whiskey, our Ginger Devil cinnamon whiskey. Our biggest product is probably our vodka, which is our Detroit Steam vodka. And that's kind of our flagship product right now.
Where do you get your motivation from?
My boss.
By paying you.
Yeah, right? The dollars. No. Honestly, I just take pride in how it comes out, honestly. But I mean, I'm really lucky with the way my boss is an art guy. He graduated from CCS in Detroit, and so he's done a lot of design work, and so we're kind of a team, actually. I mean, all these bottles are kind of the product of, with me and Joe Schiebel working together, and he's always giving me ideas and pushing me in different directions and saying, I think you can do this. I think we can do that. And so it's always been a great relationship in that way of us kind of teaming up on making the labels.
I can't wait to show the audience, and I will take photos and put it on my Twitter at MC Johnny D #4 and my Instagram at Motivational Cowboy. But the labels are so inspiring all by themselves. They tell a story. Did you actually draw this, or is this what they call digital art these days?
Yeah. Well, it starts off as a hand-drawn art. And like I said, it's pen and ink drawings for some of them. Some of them are oil paintings. But yeah, it all starts out on paper or on canvas. And then from there, I scan it in or take a photo. And then I will do digital alterations from there if I want to change things. A lot of times things get cut up or made to fit the product correctly, or we come up with entirely new ideas where we say we want a different color here.
Even the font and everything is from your head.
The font is not. No, we do drop the fonts in there, but all the line work and the drawings are.
So I'm looking at the stash. What made you draw a mustache the way that is?
So that's actually given to me from the boss, and so
it was his idea, and you just went with it.
Yep. He says, and that was based off of our gin. So our gin is a gin stash, is what it's called.
Yep.
And so it's all about the mustache thing, and so.
So does your boss have a big stash or something? Is that why?
He does not. We just like the we like the that old style feel, the antique-ish type feel, and that's kind of goes with what our product range is, and so that's usually how it'll work. He'll give me an idea of what he's thinking, and then I'll do sketches based on that, and I'll kind of come up with a layout from there, or maybe what the image might be. Sometimes he's got a clearer picture, and sometimes I have a clear picture. So we'll work together and come out with the image from there.
Do you ever take a ride through downtown Detroit to get inspiration, to maybe even use some of those older buildings or photos from the past?
For sure, yeah. Especially with our Detroit Steam bottle.
Yeah.
The background on that.
And the rat rod there. That's sweet.
And that's one of our flagships of the company is the Rusticro rat rod, which Joe designed that and put that together himself. That's all built by him. It's kind of our...
I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Not because there's so much liquor sitting on this table right now, but your artwork is so inspiring. Well, I mean, I can't even tell you. I had no clue it was going to be like this.
Well, I appreciate that. And, it's good to feel that way for me, because I was so inspired when I was a kid, looking at other people's artwork, looking at my favorite comic book artists,
Like who did you look up to? Because we've all had mentors.
For sure. And I mean, it's always changed over the years, but I mean, I grew up, reading the old Steve Ditko Spider-Mans and things of that nature, where you'd see the old back issues, and getting into Todd McFarlane when he was doing Spider-Man. I went nuts for that in the early '90s, and into Sam Keith. Sam Keith was an artist who did a lot of more cartoony things that really changed my perspective on what you could do and what was acceptable. And then Bill Sienkiewicz has been huge for me the last 10 to 20 years.
Josh, every great athlete has had great coaches throughout their career. Mm-hmm. And when I use the word coach, that doesn't mean it was a literal coach in your life. Mm-hmm. Who have been some of the people that inspired you through your life so far?
Oh, wow.
I mean, you just gave us some of the people that you inspired through their art, but I'm just talking about who inspired you.
There's been so many of them that have helped out. Bruce Waha was my track coach back in the day in high school, and he really taught me a lot. Did you ever go back and tell him how much he influenced you? I did. I talked to him. Saw him a couple times afterwards and said, Coach, he was my favorite coach in school by far. He's a cranky old bastard, but that's what I loved about him. I kind of took after him a little bit probably sometimes, but between him and I had some other great high school coaches who were, who my coach Hal Evans was big in getting me in the weight room, and that really changed my life. He would come into the weight room every day, and there were only 2 or 3 of us at the time, and he was there to work out with us and show us how to work out correctly, and that changed my life really.
Right.
For all the time that he spent with us, that he wasn't getting paid, and that's kind of the coaching way. And I did a little bit of coaching after college in high school, and it was huge. I really enjoyed it a lot, working with kids and doing that same kind of thing.
So you get to design these super sweet bottles, but do you ever get to taste the product, why it's being made to put in these sweet bottles?
Yeah. Our distiller, Andrew Starnes.
I want to be there for that meeting.
Yeah, right? Yeah, he's always putting together something different. So, if I'm going in there to have a meeting or something and he's brewing up something new and he's trying out some new tastes, and, he'll bring out a little dropper and go, hey, try this, try that. And it's like, this is good. This tastes like garbage. And sorry, but usually it's really good stuff.
So are you now appreciating liquor in a different way?
No, I'm not a big liquor guy. Personally.
He's like, nope, honestly. I just do the shots.
Nope, yeah, right. Put it out there and I'll drink it. No, I have some now and again. I am not a huge drinker, honestly. I like wine better than I like beer or liquor. So yeah, I probably fit into that artsy category, right? Where everybody thinks I'm an artsy guy now. So the guy drinking wine with his pinky out. But no, I enjoy some here and there. But yeah, I don't get carried away with the booze.
So so one thing that's really interesting for, was there ever a dynamic you were talked about, playing football in college, and then you get out of college and, throughout college, you're starting to see art as a career. Then you get out of school and now you're in the real world, and, cause we're talking about this position you have now, this career you have now, that's just, you get to do what you really love to do. But I'm sure it wasn't always that way because it's unconventional. Yeah. And so what was that like what's that journey been like from getting out of college? Now you got to get in the real world, but I want to do something that's so unconventional and maybe doesn't make sense to some people.
Right.
What was that journey like?
It was a struggle for sure at times, getting out of college, and I thought I was way better than I was as an artist, which, I didn't go to an art school. I went to CMU, which is, it's more of a teacher's school. So there weren't a lot of people in the classes where I felt like I was, man, I really need to work harder to be better. I'm a competitive person, just straight up. So, there was those moments where I thought I was way better at what I did than what I was. And, you get out of school and I started working on it and doing my own illustrations. And then I would take them out to shows and the guys just weren't that into it. And I'm like, man, well, okay, all right. And so I was really disappointed.
Humble pie.
Times. Yeah, I got my slice of it big time. Yeah. So you go back and I remember a few times where I'd go back to my hotel room. I'd go to Chicago for a show or something, and I go back and lay on the bed and I go, man, there's a year of work down the drain. I still suck. And you're laying there and I'm depressed and I'm thinking, man, what next? And I go, well, what's next? I ain't giving up.
Yeah.
Right.
It's either sink or swim. You can either go and do something you don't like all the time, or else you can put your nose to the grindstone and figure out a way to work harder at this and get better at this.
I think that's something that Johnny and I have talked about before as, bombing on stage. It's part of, Johnny's.
I was just going to ask
you
that.
Told me stories before about you.
I was writing it down just so.
When you bomb, and it just doesn't go well. The jokes don't land and you lose track of where you're at. It happens to all of us. And so, that's something that, especially if you're doing something that's not like a job that you just do this, this simple thing or whatever. So what was that like for you, like that gut check? And then, how you responded, like sounded like you doubled down and said, okay, I'm just going to work harder.
Eventually. Yeah. I mean, then that was, I at the time I was, I was working as a house painter for about 10 years when I was living in Northern Michigan.
How old were you when that happened?
I was probably in my mid 20s, 24, something like that, maybe 25, where I was going out to a lot of shows and comic book shows, trying to get work as an illustrator. And, and so I doubled back down and I had the job as a house painter, and which I really, really did not like. I did not enjoy that job, but I learned a lot from it actually, which was why I took it. And I also took it as a mind game with myself because I knew I wasn't going to like it. And I said, you know what, you're going to take a job that you hate and you're going to stick with it. And cause that's going to motivate you on the weekends to draw. It's going to make you comfort zone. Yeah. It's going to keep the fire under my butt to keep working hard. And I took my sketchbook to work. I sketched on my lunch breaks. I sketched on my breaks. I sketched when I got home, and and I eventually put the time in that I should have been putting in more when I was in school.
But how good did that make you feel though, even as a house painter? Because I know when the guy comes and does my house, a couple times a year, I just want to hug the guy because I hate painting. When you left, I mean, you had to have some kind of satisfaction of going, this isn't my dream, but man, I'm getting still paid to do something cool.
Well, sure. I mean,
and giving somebody else something in return.
Yeah. I mean,
instant gratification, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
We worked on some really nice houses too. And we were a higher end painting crew. We worked on a lot of the mansion type places in Harbor Springs area.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of really nice houses and projects that came out really nice afterwards. You're like, that was, we did something that we can be proud of, at least with that, where we weren't a slop and drop kind of an operation, So
$100
and that was
for
part of
3
what
rooms.
I learned there. It was a perfect situation. If I was going to pick a house painting crew to work for, I picked the perfect one because it was all about detail and it was always about being clean and being neat. And those are things that I could take over into my artwork in a lot of ways. And, a lot of things that I did learn about sheens and how to use rollers and how to, so I learned a lot of valuable stuff that I actually use in my paintings now for putting on varnishes and things of that nature that have really been helpful eventually. And a lot of experimental stuff that I've kind of brought on from there. So, take your experiences and put yourself in a position where you can learn something. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting too is how so many times, all of us in some level we get doing something we're not really comfortable with, but there's an aspect of, and you talked a little bit before we started about what you learned from sports, but the whole idea of hustling. So you're on your lunch, you're on your break, you're on your weekends, and you're like, you know what, I got to do this job. I'm going to learn from it. I got to do this job, but I'm going to keep hustling on this dream. And that's really cool. And the question for the listeners is, what's your hustle?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What's your thing that you are so passionate about that you would give up your, social media on your lunch hour to do it? You know what I mean? So that's really cool.
Guys, when I first started my career, I literally dropped everything. Like I walked in and when I quit, I quit. Okay. And I lived in a basement apartment with 2 other guys that I didn't know. I had 1 room with a padlock on it. I mean, when I say I gave up everything, the house, the cars, everything, I was a janitor at night and would speak during the day. And then it got to the point I upgraded and I cleaned carpets. And there was times that he needed me. He let me follow my dream. And there was times I got done speaking and had to meet him at a job and change out of my suit and then go and change into my cleaning clothes.
Right.
That's your hustle. You have to still pay the bills, but don't give up on your dream.
Absolutely.
Josh, have you ever had an embarrassing moment?
Oh, yeah. So who hasn't, right?
Well, and I asked that because I know Joshua in our business, I mean, we're in front of like people, right? So I wanted to ask him the same question because I'm thinking to myself, well, the embarrassing moment would be by yourself because he's an artist, right? I mean, I don't know. So it's like, what happened?
Well, I'll give you 2 of them, actually. I remember the one that I remember really, really bad was in college. I think we were playing Purdue and, it was one of my first games where I was, really playing a lot, and we were coming off from defense, and we had just gotten actually a stop against Purdue, which was like mind blowing, right? Drew Brees was actually quarterbacking at that point, so we were playing. Wow. It was one of those big games where you're playing a Big Ten team, and I just panicked at one point coming off the field, and I couldn't remember if they had called punt safe or if they had called for the punt return team. And so I'm sitting out there trying to figure out. It is. And so I'm halfway between the coaches and the sideline trying to count how many people are in the field. And I know everybody in the stadium's looking at me, right? And so I'm just out there going crazy. And finally they had to call a timeout, or we got a flag or something. And I'm going over to the sideline and I'm just like, oh my God, you're such an idiot. So you got 70,000 people looking at you as you screw up. That's the situation you put yourself in when you go out on those fields. But that was more than a little bit embarrassing. But my coaches didn't kill me too much about it. But,
right. And your second one?
My second one was definitely when I published my comic book, and
which is incredible. I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah, my comic book is called The Detroit Memoirs. I probably did it 5 or 6 years ago now, and but anyways, I did it. And one of the first people I gave it to, pointed, first.
So
thing
is this my copy?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask him on the podcast, so he couldn't say no. He'd be like, "No, it's $5."
I got a copy too, but thanks, by the way. I might have to hide it from my kids though.
but anyways, one of the first people that I gave it to though looked through it and read it and came back to me next week. Yeah, what do you think? And he goes, well, yeah, it was good except for this one thing. And I go, oh God, what did I misspell? What happened? You know, and it turned out I had made a continuity error between this and that in there. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but for some reason I was just so embarrassed about it. I was just, I'd put so much time into this book and I'd worked so hard on it and tried to find every mistake at it. And it just like, it wasn't perfect no matter what I'd put into it. And so it was, I was just like, oh, so now every time everybody looks at it, I'm like, yep, here's the screw up. Just there it is. This is what's wrong.
Everything in life has a little mistake in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, wrote 2 books and I'm still finding little mistakes here and there. I'm like, why didn't I catch this?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's already a year old.
Yeah.
And I think about that in life. Nothing is ever perfect.
True.
I'm sure that you can look at any piece of your artwork and find something that you're like, you know what? I should have done that a little bit better. I should have done that. Nobody else would know,
right?
Except for you.
Yep. And that's you're to be your worst critic. And people say don't be so hard on yourself, but I think you have to be hard on yourself to push yourself and to get better at what you're doing. So you have to be looking for those things. If you're not, I think you're cheating yourself.
That's right. Do you remember the first time that somebody walked up to you and said, "Wow, your art is amazing," or what that feels like today?
I mean, when in school, there was always people who would say, "Man, I really love your work," and this and that, and that was awesome. To everybody who has ever pushed the like button on social media, or especially who has bought something from me or bought a piece of art, it's like, thank you. Every little bit pushes you along. Of people giving you a compliment or this or that. I mean, one of the most fun times for me, and this is just a little thing, but I remember I met this guy at a concert one time, and he came up to me. We were outside the show, and we just randomly started talking, and I we exchanged names or whatever, and I told him my name, and he goes, wait, you're not the Josh Skeel, are you? Right? And it's like, and I go, well, I never thought about it that way, but I guess I am. And he had read my book, and so it was like, oh, that's like my one of the fan interactions, which you've been building up to for a long time. So it was a really small thing, but it was fun for me.
Have you ever been sitting at a bar and somebody said something about one of the bottles that you designed? Like, have you ever been in that situation? You're like, yeah, that's me. Like, it's like you don't want to say something like, hey, right. I designed that, because you're sitting at the bar and everybody has a story sitting at the bar stool.
Yeah.
And no one's probably going to believe you anyways.
No. Well,
but has that ever happened?
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while I'll be downtown having a meeting or something, and you'll hear somebody talking about how much they love the murals on the wall, or they love the way the bottles are done, or, the waitresses will mention to somebody that I'm there, and they'll come over and want to have something signed. And those are definitely rewarding moments, to have people appreciate this stuff.
I took my mother-in-law and father-in-law to a show in Detroit a couple months ago, and we went to the Rusted Crow, and I was just like, yeah, my friend did that. Yeah, my friend did that. Yeah, my friend did that. They're like, your friend did that? And so to all the listeners, if you're in the Detroit area, you go into the Rusted Crow, and the murals that Josh has mentioned very modestly a couple times, it's breathtaking what has been done on the brick in there. It's just absolutely breathtaking. And I felt a lot of, I was, that's my buddy, but it is amazing. And I wonder what it's like for you walking in there and watching people look at that kind of stuff. 'Cause you're just doing you. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's work that you did a long time ago and you're on to other projects. But people who just walk in there, they have to be in shock when they see, because it's not just like a painting on the wall, it's the brick and it's just amazing.
Have you ever been to the trolley stop?
I have not, no.
They have the same kind of deal. Now we're talking back in the 60s, and the trolley stop actually used to be in Detroit, like right on Verner.
Okay.
And they took the wall, like literally cut the wall out and put it in this same kind of deal. And I mean, it is just, it's amazing. And do you ever get sick of seeing your own artwork?
Oh,
or do you just take it for granted? And
I mean, there's definitely things where I'm like, especially like you were talking about when you're seeing mistakes on things where you're just like, God, please don't let me ever see that piece of artwork again, because it's so bad. I can't stand it. That for sure happens. But most of the stuff that I've done professionally, I feel pretty good about still.
Is there any kind of art that you still want to conquer?
Absolutely. I would still love to go back to the comic book thing again at some point. I have some stories that I want to tell, and some books that I've started working on. I have a short story book that I started working on that I'd like to self-publish here in the near future. And, I'd like to take a shot at that at some point to work for an Image Comics or maybe a Marvel or DC type situation. It's just to say that I did it, 'cause it was a dream for mine for a long time. And, I really love what I do now. But it'd be fun to at least have that as a side project somewhere where I can go off for a month and do a book or a couple months. So it's still a passion of mine. I love storytelling. I think storytelling is really great.
Playing football for so long, do you still go to the gym and work out all the time?
I go a couple times a week, but I tell you what, it's a lot harder to drag my butt there now than it used to be. It's like, when there's no goal, it's like back then it was easy because I always felt like
you had to, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody was dependent on you to be prepared is the way that I looked at it. It was like I didn't want to let my teammates down, that I wasn't the one who had been lifting weights and was in shape. And so for me, it was, you're motivated by fear in that aspect. For me anyways, was I was scared not to be ready.
Do you have a favorite piece of artwork that every time that you see it or walk by it or think about it, it just makes you smile and that's what keeps you motivated?
I mean, for me, it would probably be like artwork as in like a full book. Like if Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns is this comic book that I had as a graphic novel as a kid. And I read that thing so many times that the cover fell off of it. Literally. It has
but that
no
was
cover.
his. I'm talking about your piece of artwork.
Oh, for my pieces of artwork? Oh,
like, is there one piece that you could tell us right now? You're like, that thing is just, you know what I mean? That's what keeps me going all the time.
No, I don't. And honestly, once they're done, I feel good about them, but right. I'm thinking about the next thing. I want the next thing to be bigger and I want the next thing to be better. And, I'm more inspired by what's coming than what's in the past.
Joshua, how about you? I mean, do you have one single piece of, I don't even know what I guess in the speaking business, is there one thing that keeps you going, something that you have done? Maybe it was a presentation, maybe it was a comment back from a student, maybe it was, that just keeps you going at all times. Yeah,
I think, I'm a lot like Josh is in the sense that it's very hard to live on something that you did before. You're always wanting to make something better, but I definitely think, the first time you do something, way back, like when I first got out of college and the first time I spoke and people came up afterwards, and that does make a big difference. But I can certainly relate to where he's at because, and too, Johnny, you tell a story and you're like, man, if I could do this a little different. So it is hard to go back and look at this stuff you did, but there are certain things that you sometimes want to do to go back and say, hey, look what I did. And then it does inspire you to move forward, but you also can't get stuck in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you asked me the exact same question.
So Johnny, what about you?
No, and the reason why I asked both of you is because when I asked it, I think back of one thing that triggers me to do what I get to do every single day, and that is the first thing I got to do as a professional speaker. And I go back and I literally, I'm getting kind of emotional, but it was the first tape I did. And back then it was tapes. It wasn't CDs. It wasn't a podcast. It wasn't, online.
Reel to reel
and
back then. With
absolutely. And I mean, even though, it was a cassette. And I'll never forget being in the studio. I had enough money for 2 hours. The first half of the CD, because remember it was half, and then you turn it over and it would be the B side. You put it in and put it. And all of a sudden, you could hear me start talking faster because I was running out of money. And I have a picture of it downstairs. And because you always have to start somewhere, you can't start at the top of the mountain. Right. You have to start at the bottom of the mountain and work your way up. And the story takes place going up the mountain. Nobody ever just goes right to the top, and if they do, it never lasts.
Sure.
So I think about that, and you have to walk. You have to crawl before you walk. You have to walk before you run. And I always go back to sometimes going downstairs, and Joshua, my basement's filled with cool things I've got to do, and I don't have them for me. I have them, or I don't have them for everybody else. I have them for me, because sometimes we do forget about the cool things we've done. And sometimes we need to be reminded how cool we really are and how cool of a job we really have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I know I just kind of like went off, but it's like sometimes we need to look back and say, you know what? I did it.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell me anymore that I'm not doing it. I'll never forget my first presentation. Just probably like the first time you got to draw, you know, and make money at it. You're like, nobody can tell me no more that I'm not doing it. I'm doing it. Look at it. I got paid. I got paid for this.
Yeah.
There's something about being able to encourage yourself.
Yeah, you have to.
Because sometimes when you're doing something that's outside of the box, I mean, sometimes, you know, you have a wife or a friend that is always there for you, but I'm sure there were times, maybe, you know, Josh, where you maybe felt like, oh my gosh, you know, whatever, but you have to be able to encourage yourself and, you know, believe in yourself. Even if you don't all the way, you have to just keep believing in yourself because you know there's something there. And I'm sure your journey was like that too. Where you,
so everybody's got to play a mind game with themselves to some point. And I think that's an important part of getting things done. You know,
right.
Figuring out how to motivate yourself. And like for instance, I work on a Cintiq a lot which is like a giant iPad for art, and you got a little drawing pen on it or whatever. But it's a big screen. And so for my homepage though, I have actually have a picture of me with my old painting crew on there. So every day when I get up, it's me and my painting crew standing there.
That's what I'm talking about.
I better work my ass off today,
and not have to go back.
I'm going back, right?
Exactly.
You know, so that's my motivation every day. Every night, if I don't want to get up and work on the computer, I take one look at that and go, yep, I am not going back there if I can help it.
So other than painting, other than your art, what other jobs have you done?
Let's see. During my first job was shoveling manure on a farm, literally. That was my first job. Somebody hired me to work on a farm, and I shoveled cow crap for 6 hours a day. And then I did some throwing hay bales and stuff like that. So I kind of grew up in the farm community a little bit, but I always liked doing hay stuff. So I did that, and I'd worked some construction in high school for my construction teacher, which was, you know, kind of in the same trades thing with the house painting stuff. And in college, I did a little bit of I actually worked in a bread truck loading place for like Aunt Millie's type stuff, and so I would load bread trucks.
Well, you know, that wasn't very heavy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't get my weightlifting in at that point. It was we played cards probably. But.
You're like, yeah, I did like 3 skits of bread.
Yeah, the coaches didn't buy that one. Yeah, I still had to do my squats when I went to workouts later. But and then after that, I did do a little bit more construction work, and I worked at a fitness center for a while, just running the desk. And then it was into the house painting thing from there, and coaching football.
So would you say, because the three of us are artists in different ways, would you say that being an artist is lonely?
I'm kind of a loner type person. I keep to myself a lot anyways, and I like quiet. I'm a basement guy, like you were talking about living in the basement. You know, I love being in basements, you know, with no windows, and it's dark, and it's just me and my light on my desk. Those are like my dream situations.
With your cape on?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If I can find my cape, I'm ready to roll. Yeah.
He dresses up as Batman.
You are your hero.
Let's not get that mental picture into people because they're going to be scared.
How can people find you online so they can see your artwork?
Well, you can, if you're interested in the Rusted Crow products, www.rustedcrow.com has all of our products, and you can see all of our bottles on there. We're working on redoing the website here soon, but we also, if you wanted to see my stuff, where I post a lot of sketchbook art and things that you'd never see anywhere else on my Instagram, which is I'm at Skeel76, and that's SKEEL 76, and so you can see a lot of my stuff there too.
Instagram is amazing.
I love Instagram. I'm a huge Instagram fan.
I'm talking about your Instagram.
Oh, thanks.
Is amazing. I mean, and you're right, Instagram is cool, but your Instagram is, if you're an artist, you need to check it out. I mean, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to call some friends in North Carolina that they paint. The name of the company is Off Access Paint, and they paint a lot of the NASCAR drivers' helmets.
Okay.
And a couple of the guys do this kind of stuff on the helmets. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to say to them, you know what I mean? You got to check this guy's stuff out, because I appreciate it, but another artist would even appreciate it even more. Right. So I can't wait for people to go and check this stuff out. Is there anything that gets you angry?
Oh, geez. I don't want to talk about politics, but yeah, that gets me angry a lot. So let's
politics.
Beyond that, I'm a pretty level guy, I think, right, Josh? I don't get angry too much.
No.
So
unless you're playing
I'm pretty
video
easy
games
going.
back in Merrill Hall.
Yeah. I had to quit the video games because the blood pressure was going through the roof. So
you know, Johnny, I got to tell you one time.
Please. Because I was just going to ask Josh to tell a story about Joshua. While he's telling this, you start thinking.
We lived together one year, and we used to, me, Josh, and Bruce, we used to play video games, and there was this recliner that was always getting punched if people didn't win their game. And one time, I don't remember if it was you, I think it was you, maybe it was Bruce, I can't remember. Somebody lost, and the part of the recliner that goes up got punched so hard that it broke the chair.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah. So
and that was Bruce's chair. He wasn't real happy with me either. So
he's even keel now, but if you beat him in Madden or NBA 2K, look out.
I used to be so competitive, and yeah, that would set me off big time back then. I don't get as much into it nowadays where I'm playing tennis or something. It's just like, oh, all right, this was fun. It's great to run around. But back then I didn't want to lose at anything, and it would drive me crazy.
So I'm just curious, do you have a kind of a funny story about Joshua, besides the fact that he loves and he goes to the bathroom often before a podcast?
I actually have a great story about Josh. And honestly, I think it was the first time we ever were really chatting. We were at a track meet. You remember what I'm talking about, Josh?
Wait. You both ran track?
I think I might know where he's going with this.
Wait a second. Did you both run track?
We were both shot putters.
Okay.
We weren't running.
We both track. There's no running involved.
We wore the shorts. That's about as far as it went, as far as that goes. But yeah, we were. You're at the shot put ring, and I don't think I'd ever really talked to Josh before much, except for maybe here or there on the football field, would say good play or something. But anyways, we were throwing shot put, and I remember Josh getting up there to go out and throw the shot, and gets in the ring and gets, he's getting his warm up, and he takes off and throws the shot put, and man, it flew forever. It must have went 50 feet, and 50 feet, that's a good throw, right? And all of us just look and go, oh my God, because usually he wasn't anywhere near that. And of course, Josh had picked up the girl's shot put and had walked into the ring and thrown it out there.
It was unbelievable.
Was that accidental? Or did you know
it
that?
It was accidental. I was just like, oh my gosh.
I got stronger.
All of a sudden, I'm awesome. I went out and got it. And I'm like, oh man, I felt so. Yeah.
I was just, because you didn't tell an embarrassing story, Josh, I thought I should bring that up.
That was perfect.
That was awesome.
That was perfect. Well played. Well played.
Josh, what advice could you give somebody that is listening right now and they think that they're pretty good? Maybe some people tell them that they're pretty good. Mm-hmm. Pretty good at anything. Yeah. What advice could you give them that you wish that you would have gotten when you were younger?
Don't compare yourself to the people who are around you as far as what you do. If you want to be great at something,
And that's tough.
Compare yourself to the people that you admire. And, to me, I'm always climbing that mountain to, compare my work to Bill Sienkiewicz, where I want to be on that level, or the great artists that I grew up looking at. And I'm like, I'm not there yet. I know I'm not there yet. And you got to keep pushing towards that. Don't push towards, being the best in your school. Don't push towards, being the best one in your small little town. Push towards being one of the best in the world. And, if you never make it there, fine, but you're never going to regret working hard to get to that point.
Is there really an age in art?
An age?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a kid, or you don't have to be, you can be 70 years old and start art,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. I mean, anytime you're willing to pick it up and put the work in, and even if you don't make a profession out of it, there's so much rewarding in art to just sit down and do it and to make something, I think.
Can you teach somebody how to draw? You personally?
I can teach you how to draw, but you have to learn how to draw. It was more what it comes down to. So I can show you how to draw, but you have to spend the time to actually hone your own skills, basically, is what it comes down to. Nobody can teach you how to draw and you're actually good. It's not like math where I can explain it on the board and then you're good at it.
Right.
You have to actually do it and make it your own way there.
What is a dream project for you? Me personally, being a guy that likes to have a cocktail every now and then, you have the dream job because you have liquor bottles with your artwork on it. Mm-hmm. But everybody has their ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be financial. Mm-hmm. Where would you love to see your artwork?
I mean, I think that for me, it would be, to do that project of writing and illustrating a book that made an impact, I guess, where like I don't agree with the politics of it, but I've always loved Ayn Rand's work with the Fountainhead. And there are things that have actually had an impact on society from there, to where people, politicians talk about those books and they're influenced by those books. And, I'm not a right wing politician necessarily, but I'd love to have something that people talk about in their life and say, I learned from this. This is because I think that's what it's about, communicating your ideas and to have an idea that can actually make an impact on society. And so I'd love to write and illustrate a book that had that kind of a feel, that said something that really resonated.
So would it be just for kids, or would it be for kids and adults? Like one book that they could all get something out of?
I tend to go more towards the adult type stories.
Yeah.
I like the, a little bit more sarcastic and darker stories myself, and then it's more fun for me to draw. So, it would definitely be more in that vein, which is where comic books are a lot these days. They're not really kiddie stuff anymore.
Right. The three of us being from Detroit, what is the best or the most inspirational place in Detroit for you to go to and get a little just to relax?
I'm a big fan of the Scarab Club downtown, which is an artist club up in Midtown. I go there for figure drawing sessions, and they have a little.
I saw that something about that, and it was like drinks and drawing. Is that
that's a different thing, actually?
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of sketching things around town that I go to, but they have like a scheduled figure drawing sessions 3 times a week at the Scarab Club, which is an artist club, and they'll have like museum shows and things like that there. But yeah, I love to go there on Saturdays and just figure sketch, and it's just it's something where I can experiment and I meet some other artists, and it's just a relaxing thing for me to go down there for the day, listen to music, and have something to sketch.
What's the craziest thing that you've ever had to sketch?
Oh wow!
Like, have you ever? And I thought about this.
Are you thinking something that's not PG-13?
Well, I'm just thinking no, because I mean, come on. As long as art has been art,
yeah.
I don't know how I could physically see somebody nude and have to paint them. You know what I mean?
It's honestly, it's old hat for you after you've done it. I mean, like honestly, in college, I took so many figure drawing classes.
It's a good pickup line.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Excuse me, what are you doing after here?
I try not to be that creepy guy, but that's not really. But yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for so long that it's drawing people nude is totally not even a big deal anymore. It's it's just another thing that I do for practice. Really, it's. I mean, it's not sexual in any way.
No, right.
It's not like that, but. Yeah, it's just more of a practice thing to hone your craft and to experiment. I love experimenting with new media when I go there. If I'm pulling out chalk or something that I've never worked on, or I have an idea that I want to play with color wise, and that's my sketchbook time to do stuff like that.
How do you price your artwork? Is it by time, or is it by piece? Is it by maybe just by the job?
Well, I mean, working now. I mean, I'm on salary. It's more of I tell them how long it's going to take me, and we decide how much time I should spend on something, because we have other projects that we need to get done. But I mean, if somebody is asking me for a painting on the side or something, then it's more about time. It's about how much time. And
say
what
me
I
and Joshua wanted something painted or sketched out for a piece of promotional.
Well, for
whatever.
Josh, I charge double, but that's different. 0 times 0 has always been
I'll just pay him with $3 bills, just like I did in high school with the shot put. I couldn't beat Skeel in shot put with the guys, so I used the girls.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying, Josh.
That's right. I learned that from a guy in Charlevoix.
What celebrity would you love to do a piece of work for?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I mean, somebody like Neil Gaiman would be awesome to work for. Somebody who's a really respected author and has done so many amazing works, or James Cameron. I'd love to work on a film. It'd be awesome to work. I've always loved movies and, the kind of that storytelling thing. And it'd be awesome to work with a great director, doing a storyboard for a movie or doing some kind of a concept designs or something. I mean, I think that would be a really great thing to do too.
If I could give you a blank check right now and said, Josh, after this podcast, I want to thank you for coming here. I want you to go for a week anywhere in the world, and I want you to draw, where would you go for a week on me?
Where would I go for a week? I would probably go somewhere like Ireland, somewhere with a lot of old castles. You know, so I really like our old architecture.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, you're not going to get that kind of thing here. You have to go overseas, back where but yeah, the Scotland, something like that. Scotland or Ireland would probably be my pick.
I'm half Scottish, so that's good.
Yeah,
good answer.
Okay,
I'll write you the check when I'm done. Yeah, so I said when we're done. We got about 5 more minutes.
You know, you've mentioned a lot about comic books, and you know, I've heard of Comic-Con and how it's all about Comic-Con.
Yeah,
all this stuff. Is there like this underground subculture of people that are, you know, because I never really was into comic books, but I've always known he was into them, and I've known other people. I've met several people in my professional life who are my age, you know, mid 40s or 40, whatever, and they're into comic books. Mm-hmm. Is there like a subculture of people that are really into those still?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, especially people who are. It's grown into more of an older people, where it's people in their 30s and 40s nowadays, because younger kids aren't that much. They're into video games now, which I get. But yeah, there's definitely. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, just a certain style of things where you relate to people that you, and so people you can talk to about, like, you know, I go to a drink and draw thing at Avalon Bakery. It's the Detroit Drink and Draw. And, you know, a couple of the people that show up are comic book people. And so we sit there and we talk about, oh, this book's coming out. This is cool. I love this artist and that artist. And, you know, there's just a lot of conversational things that you can talk about and where you can't talk about with anybody else because nobody else cares. Right. You know, so it's, I mean, that's just the niches of life, right? Sure. Where you get certain things that you know, whether you're a sports fan or you're a music fan or you know, so yeah, I mean, there's definitely that, you know, you have that in common with somebody who's into that type of thing. And, you know, everybody jokes about, you know, you're like, we're talking about if Superman could beat Mighty Mouse type stuff, but it's not always quite that geeky, but we are very geeky. Don't make no mistake.
It's also kind of neat too. I've noticed that you create art for a living. That's how you pay the bills, and then you go on your off time, and you still have that hustle,
right?
But it's work. It's how you pay your bills, but it's also I go there to relax and basically go what you do for work. And it's kind of neat that you get to kind of have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
you know?
Right? And that could not be more true. And that was my goal. You know, was I wanted, you know, it's an old story, but you know, I wanted to go to work every day and not feel like I went to work every day. Mm-hmm. And that's,
the three of us are following that dream.
And, you know, anytime you're following your dream, that's to me.
I work harder than I did when I had to actually go to work.
Absolutely.
But I'm fine with it because it's not work, because I love it.
It's fun.
I love it.
And I mean, to have a job that is fun, you cannot put a price tag on that to me. It's like, I will take less money all day long to do something that I love all day.
Several times I've asked this question at the end of a podcast. And Josh, I'm going to ask you, I just told you that I would write you a check and you could travel anywhere. And you said you'd go to Ireland, Scotland. Mm-hmm. That's cool. What if you left here? You left here and you went and got gas and you bought a lotto ticket. You got home and realized you bought the winning ticket. You never had to work again. Mm-hmm. What would you do tomorrow? Would your life change?
I mean, it would change to some degree because I would take on more personal projects, but I would start writing another comic book right now. I mean, that would be my first thing I would do. Yeah. I do what I love. And, I can't imagine ever not working. I mean, everybody talks about, you know, I can't wait to get away on vacation and I can't wait to retire. I love what I do. I can't imagine not working.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's.
We don't work. That's the whole point.
Right.
And because I say the exact, nothing would change in my life.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
Probably even to the point of where I even live.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Mm-hmm. Money doesn't motivate me.
Right.
It doesn't inspire me. I mean, I make enough to pay the bills and do, you know, what I want to do, but it doesn't make me. Money's not going to make me somebody else.
Yeah.
I love doing what I do.
It's fun to be rewarded though. I mean, like if you get a big job or you get that recognition and maybe you get a paycheck, it's great to be recognized for what you do, especially when you love what you do.
Yeah.
And you know, to get that recognition feels good, but like you said, it's not the important thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Favorite day of the week?
Every day's the same, honestly. I work every day. I really do. So I mean,
favorite time of the day?
Favorite time of the day is definitely like
6 a.m. Just for the listeners, I was planning this podcast out with Josh, and he said nothing before 11 a.m. I like to sleep in.
Yeah, I am totally a night owl. So my favorite time is like between 10 p.m. and like 3 in the morning. That is my peak creative time. Like I said, that's when it's dark outside. Everybody's gone to bed. It's quiet. It's just me and my light and my desk or whatever I'm working on. And it's just, I can totally focus in, and I've got the music going, and I just feel more awake at that point in time than any other time of the day.
I'm going to wrap it up with this. And the last question is just that. Do you listen to music constantly when you are being inspired and when you have your pencil or your pen or your crayons in your hand?
Yeah, a lot of the times I do.
And what kind of music?
Oh, geez.
Or is it just across the board?
No, I like more of the artsy folk stuff. But I
what's
listen
the
to a lot of
artsy folk stuff?
No, like
please explain
how it. So let's see if I can name some
Hanson,
bands here.
Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, I would probably name 10 bands that nobody's ever heard of, but like Shilpa Ray is one of my favorite artists. I really like her. Oh geez, let's hope I don't give them a blank here.
So are they Detroit artists or are they just national known artists?
No, most of them are from around the country.
So is it rockabilly kind of stuff? Is it what kind of music is it? Is it country?
Some of it's kind of rock punk based. Okay. Some of it's more acoustic guitars and banjos type things. The main thing is that I like unique singing voices.
Yeah.
People who have Tom Waits is my favorite artist of all time. So if anybody's ever heard of Tom Waits, and even from his old stuff to his new stuff, he's always doing something different, but he's always got this dusty, gritty feel to it, stuff that he's doing, and it's got, that's my favorite music. But I mean, I like some Radiohead and things of that nature too. So, but Tom Waits is the number one of all time. So
favorite ice cream?
Cherry Garcia. Yeah, I like Cherry Garcia.
I was waiting for him to say, I don't eat ice cream.
I try not to. I'm fat enough as it is. So, but every once in a while, like last week, I did have a pint of Cherry Garcia, and it was good.
A whole pint, not just a couple of scoops. Not like
no. If scoops. I go big. Yeah.
Joshua, I'm going to let you finishing thoughts. I mean, I can't believe it's been a little over an hour now.
No, the finishing thoughts I have would be for the listeners to think about what's your hustle like. This Josh is come on here and he's living a dream. He's doing it. He plays for a living, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think I aspire to continue to do that myself in my own way. And I think each one of us can think of things that we would love to do. And, I just happy to be here and happy to get your story out and inspire people to find your thing that you want to do and do it. Yeah. And don't, if you're sleeping on a basement in the couch, don't let something get in your way. Just keep doing it. And if you feel like it can't be done, Josh Skeel is an example of fact that it can be done. And so do it.
Yeah. Don't let anybody outwork you. Don't let anybody tell you no, because people are going to. But make your own way. And if you decide to do it, don't give up, because the only thing you're ever going to regret if you try your whole life and you don't make it, I guarantee you won't regret it. But you'll regret it if you quit. And that's one thing I learned that from athletics, and it carried me through to make it in art. I never would have made it without that idea of don't give up if you actually care. And so you've got to figure that out for yourself, what matters to you.
Josh and Joshua, I can't even thank you enough for coming on the Outstanding Life podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I was telling you before we got started, I just lost a good friend of mine, Sam Bass, and he was 57 years old, man. I mean, he was young, and he lost his life, and he made a living, 57 years old. And I used to joke with him all the time. And I used to say, Sam, I go, man, you're 57 years old and you're still playing with crayons every day. Mm-hmm. He goes, Johnny, I've been blessed. I've been blessed just to be able to hang out and do what I like to do. But you have to work hard. It doesn't just happen.
Right.
Nothing in life just happens. I can't thank you enough for telling your story, and your work again is amazing. And I want you to tell everybody how they can find your stuff as well as the stuff that you do for the bar.
Yeah. I'm at Skeel76, SKEEL 76 on Instagram. And if you wanted to look up the bar products, we're only a Michigan product, but we're at www.rustedcrowspirits.com.
Well, thanks again, guys. I can't believe I'm going to get in trouble. Paul, the guy that puts all these together, he's gonna be like, I told you to stay around an hour. We're over an hour again. Can you believe how fast everything goes all the time? I tell people all the time, an hour, it goes by fast. Again, this is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling you, be safe, have fun, have yourselves an outstanding day, and please follow me at soundcloud.com/Outstanding Life Podcast. We're also on our Apple Podcast. We are on Spotify. And you can get everything. If you forgot all those, you can go to motivationalcowboy.com as well. You can follow me at Facebook at Motivational Cowboy and also Instagram at Motivational Cowboy and Twitter, MCJOHNNYD4. Again, this is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling all of you, be safe, have fun, and have yourselves an outstanding day. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Outstanding Life is a Soul Bridge Studio production.